But they're coming to Earth. Also, former British Airways pilot Graham Shepherd. He's a dead, level-headed guy, and he says he actually saw 2 UFOs flying alongside him. And also Wendy Grossman, who's the editor of The Skeptic magazine, who says that just because a flying saucer is unidentified does not mean it's an alien spaceship. I couldn't agree with you more about that. But let's get into this NASA clip, which is quite extraordinary. It was shot some time ago from one of the shuttles out in space. Have you seen the clip before, Nick?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I do think it's very interesting. I mean, I haven't looked at it officially, and I haven't contacted the American government about it, but it does seem to show, at face value, an object actually moving through space and then reversing, which to me, you know, unless there's some other force acting on it, suggests that it's under independent power of some sort.
You also see this flash apparently on the surface of the moon, followed by a projectile coming up and going through the spot that the object, which is with incredible speed moved out of, going through the space that was occupying.
Yeah. Now, conspiracy theorists say, well, maybe the United States government was trying to shoot one of these UFOs down with some sort of missile. I think that's going a little bit far, but certainly, at the very least, there are serious questions to be addressed.
Maybe they thought Saddam Hussein was up there.
Well, another smart bomb missing.
What do you think, Wendy, of the clip?
You know, I wouldn't begin to speculate. The thing about it is, it's unidentified. It's you know, it's a great mystery. It would be great to sit down and try to figure out what it could be. I mean, that's the thing, is you really have to exhaust all the natural explanations first.
But what we're saying is there are unidentified flying objects and there are unidentified flying objects, and some of them you just look at them and you know.
But how much do you have sufficient expertise to look at that and draw a conclusion?
I don't, but I'm going to see it again. Let's have a look.
Here, there is irrefutable proof that there are UFOs in space, and NASA must know it. After a flash, an object seems to move rapidly away from an approaching missile.
I have concluded that these are probably spacecraft out in space away from the shuttle. We'll see the main object appear here soon. There it is. It's going to go up here, and there will be a double flash down here. Apparently, in response to that, it'll cut back very sharply in that direction, and then you'll see a streak go through where the object had been. Watch for the double flash. There's the flash. There it goes. And there goes the streak right through where it had been.
Certainly weird, though, isn't it? You agree?
Oh, yeah, it's weird.
It's a crack at that
but it doesn't mean that, you know, like there are aliens on the moon.
No, it doesn't. It means we've seen something inexplicable. It's about as far as you can go, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if that was the only picture like that, then fine. But I mean, you know, you've got to take this cumulatively. I mean, thousands upon thousands of sightings all around the world every year.
And 90% of them have been explained by natural...
I totally agree with you.
Have there been many in space?
Not that many, no. But this is, of course, the cutting edge. Now that we've got things like Hubble, now the space program seems to be taking off again. I guess we are looking with fresh eyes. And I mean, you know, cosmologists are always on about the chances of life out there.
Just before we move on, we'll come back to you in a second, but I mean, we said you worked at the Ministry of Defence, and you did.
Yeah.
What was your rank there? What was your job?
At the time, I was an executive officer, and basically, for 3 years, my job was to research and investigate UFO sightings that were reported to me. Now, I totally agree with Wendy here. 95% of them even, after a vigorous investigation, did turn out to be weather balloons, meteorites, whatever.
Therefore, is the 5% that you can't explain simply because you can't explain them, or is the opposite true, that they are explicable because they are alien spacecraft?
I can't say, hand on heart, we've got proof positive that they're extraterrestrial. Until they land on the White House lawn, whatever. Nobody can do that.
I want them to land on the roof of Buckingham Palace so we can argue about who gets to pay for the damage.
What I can say, though, is that those 5% of cases which I think may be extraterrestrial, I'm not saying those are insufficient data cases. Those are cases of structured craft showing speeds and maneuverabilities that we simply can't do.
Well, that brings us on to Graham Shepherd. Now, when I'm on planes, quite often asked to go in the cockpit because I like it, it's fun. And every time, I always at some point ask the pilots and the co-pilots, have they ever seen anything, just out of interest. And I'd say that 8 out of 10 say no. But there have been 2 pilots over the last 10 years who have told me quietly and asked me not to say which airline I was with and all the rest of it because they would feel embarrassed, so I won't. But they have seen very, 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 very strange things, which they themselves, as professional flying men, do believe to be spacecraft of some kind, or aircraft of some kind, moving in the most bizarre and extraordinary ways which physics would appear to rule out on this planet anyway, in this dimension. What did you see, Graham, on the first occasion, on this flight from Spain?
Well, I'd certainly go along with the 10 to 15% of pilots reporting having seen something, maybe among themselves, or in their own community, or maybe not at all. I would put my own experience in that 5% of unexplainable. And they were both I would say, high-quality sightings, in that I was a member of a crew flying a passenger aeroplane. And the major factor is that they were radar and visual.
So you could see them with the naked eye, and also the objects were showing up as dense objects on your radar.
Absolutely, yes.
Well, that's interesting. Tell us about the first one then. You were flying to London from Spain.
That's right.
And what did you see through your cockpit window?
It occurred over the Bay of Biscay, very black background, brilliant starlit night, and the unidentified star ahead of us remained so. We couldn't identify it on the star chart. And after several minutes, it started moving from its stationary position, and after a few moments of slow movement and changing colour, it started aerobating at tremendous speed. And the accelerations were, in retrospect, quite phenomenal. Ultimately, it was joined by another craft, and I have to call it a craft. There were two of them doing an aerial dance, and the Bordeaux radar confirmed that they were 10 miles away. Now, it's possible to work out by judging the angular distance of the manoeuvres, the accelerations of these craft was in the order of 100 times gravity.
Well, that's extraordinary.
It is extraordinary.
And any Earth-type craft would crack up under that kind of pressure.
I have to say that the theory of field propulsion does accommodate those kinds of accelerations. The engineering isn't in place. No. It's a matter of time.
Okay.
Right. No, just what were you two saying? What were you saying to each other when you were watching this?
We were trying to figure out what it was, first of all, because of the star aspect. But once it started moving, then we just watched it for many, many minutes before it was joined by another one. We then eventually, as they drifted away out of the Bay of Biscay, confirmed with Bordeaux radar that they were there.
And they'd seen them too?
10 miles, yeah.
Had they scrambled any French fighters to go?
No, they were just watching them.
No. Okay, well, that was the first sighting. You had another one, which is really, really unusual. To get two in a lifetime is extraordinary.
It is extraordinary.
For a sane man, as opposed to somebody who imagines these things.
I don't know whether to count myself lucky or not, but I was there.
You're flying from Scotland to London again, but over Britain, over the main part of the country?
Yes, we're over the Manchester area. There's nothing significant in that.
Daytime, though, this time?
Yes, daytime. The Preston controller advised us we had opposite direction fast-moving traffic. It was a warning. It was a conflict warning. And we looked out of the front of the windshield, and into view very quickly came this disc-shaped craft. And I've seen the graphic here, and I have to say this is remarkably accurate.
That's kind of what it looked like, as if it was coming at a diagonal angle to you.
Very close to
left
us,
to right.
Just below.
Yeah.
Very quickly. I would estimate 1,000 miles an hour, and I was privileged to be sitting in the right-hand seat, looking down on a shiny disc-shaped craft, slightly raised in the center, shining in the sunlight. And again, I have to say that the depth perception was enhanced by background.
This is
fair weather cumulus. The radar controller warned us. We subsequently saw it. We did not report it. My estimate of 1,000 miles an hour remains. Another aspect of field technology, field propulsion technology, is that it does not drag a shockwave, and this craft didn't have a shockwave.
You mean at the front of it? Or
we
behind
would have felt it. Something coming back close
right,
to
you would
us.
feel it.
You would feel a shockwave.
You'd hear it and bump it, and I've experienced this.
Yeah. Had it been, say, a Harrier jet flying at that kind of speed, you would have recognised, I mean, what I'm saying, your vision it wasn't a blur, your vision was clear, you would have recognised that as a fighter plane travelling at 1,000 miles an hour. You would have seen the wings and the engines.
I've been
and the
a member of an aircraft recognition team in my time, and this was not an aeroplane.
And this was undoubtedly a silver disc with a raised bump in the middle.
Absolutely.
You know, your classic flying saucer.
Flying faster than sound and with no shockwave, which is advanced technology by any.
Well, okay, I mean, he's a professional, and he's in a sense has a scientific approach to this, a scientific discipline. What would you say to that story?
Well, it's always difficult. You know, you can't come up with an explanation. You weren't there. You don't. I don't know. I think the thing I would tend to say is, obviously he saw something. I can't, on the evidence, conclude that he saw what he thinks he saw.
No. Well, it's
you know, to some extent, all of these things are a question of interpretation.
What would you do if and when it actually happens and they do land on Buckingham Palace, the White House lawn, or indeed Saddam Hussein's many palaces?
I will be the first person to say, you know, I will be the first person. Well, no, actually, even if they land on the top of Buckingham Palace, that doesn't prove that any of these other sightings were actually sightings.
All right.
I mean,
it just proves that particular one.
Yes.
Certainly, when I was at the ministry, I mean, I had lots and lots of cases like this. RAF pilots coming forward and telling me,